Right, Sweatcicle has a new video out. He's got like 80,000 views in 4 hours. That being said, I am going to wait a day or two to release my reaction to it because I have watched it already and he says a lot of points that I want to elaborate on. But yeah, I don't want to. I mean, let's be real, he's a much bigger creator than me. So if you're watching me, you've probably already seen this video. But again, I don't want to poach any views. So yeah, I'm not sure when I will upload this, but when I do, that's when you'll see it. Oh, and one more thing with Sweatcicle is I used to watch a lot of his content, and then I just didn't really have time. But back in the day, he was like the GOAT. I loved watching his Leviathan bakes and everything. But I have seen some of his takes over the years on like the state of Destiny, and he has very measured takes. He's an awesome creator, and he's great for, yeah, just being honest about his feelings. And he will call what's good good and what's bad bad. So I've always liked that about Sweat. So let's get into his video.
Time that we sit down and actually have a serious conversation about Destiny 2. I've been getting asked nonstop the past week how I'm feeling about the expansion, and I refuse to answer because I think the raid is the biggest determining factor on whether an expansion is good in the eyes of the community or bad in the eyes of the community. And as you can tell by the massive shopping bags under my eyes, the raid was one hell of an experience. The D2 Twitter community is totally on fire right now because of the contest raid. There are a few different reasons, and we're going to talk about each of them. First of which is that every single boss, all 4 of them, was a damage check in this raid. I think that is perfectly fine because contest raids are the pinnacle. This is the highest tier of anything that we have in Destiny 2 to say, I completed this and this is the most prestigious thing I can do in this game. It's something that you really should have to work extremely hard for and not something that you can first try, and maybe it even takes you a couple of years to build up to it. Because if I rewinded into my Destiny past, the first couple of years that I played Destiny, I would not be able to do a contest raid. I'll tell you that right now. I was a straight burger. Not being able to...
Yeah, so that first point is really, really good. Contest mode, people say, oh, it's only for the streamers, blah, 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 the 0.1%. It's true. It's there 1 or 2 times a year where they get to flex the thousands of hours that they put in every year. Like, let's be real. These guys are playing it like a full-time job, even if it isn't their full-time job. And this is the pinnacle. And I do agree with him in a sense. For the end game community, he's right. The reception of the expansion will hinge on the raid that releases in it. That is the stuff that those people care about. And to me, that is also the most replayable content. That's the stuff you want to go farm and play over and over because it's honestly the best content in the game. Raids and dungeons are where Destiny shines. And they haven't really had any misses with the raids, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of Root of Nightmares, but it's still not a bad piece of content. It's just bad for a raid, in my opinion.
To complete it the first couple of times is completely okay. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that because we live in a day and age where people just want their instant gratification 24/7.
Totally. That's the way of the world now.
But here's the thing. I'm not completely on what you would call the elitist side. There are a lot of things that I think were really, really crappy about the contest raid. The first of which is that Bungie went completely hypocritical on loadout swapping. And let me show you what we're talking about.
I referenced this in my video
Not too
as
long
well.
ago, they just nerfed basically the best loadout swap that you can do on a Warlock, which allow you to get a lot more damage on your Sanguine Alchemy. So what people would do is they would pop their well and then swap to the Sanguine Exotic so they could get a good amount of extra damage in their well if their subclass matched their heavy weapon. So for example, if you pop your well, you have the Queenbreaker on, you loadout swap to an Arc subclass, and your Queenbreaker would get bonus damage. So they nerfed it, basically alluding to the fact that they're not the biggest fans of us loadout swapping to get extra damage that maybe it feels like they didn't want us to get. But then in the contest raid, it was basically required that you were good at loadout swapping in order to be able to clear. And the other big problem that...
Yes, 100%. It was damn near mandatory to do loadout swaps. That's just a fact.
That I have with it was weapon restriction. There were like 3, maybe you could argue 2 two loadouts that you could use the entire raid to clear this raid. If you used anything outside of that, you were probably not clearing.
I totally agree with him. And again, a big problem with that is that it was for total damage checks. If you had DPS checks or, just different sort of encounters where the damage phase is quicker or whatever, it would require more DPS. But every single one was a pure total damage check, requiring you to spam Thunderlord to get supers and have high total damage, and then spam Lord of Wolves again to build your super to T-Crash to have even more high total damage. So yeah, it really pigeonholed the weapon variety that you could use to clear each boss. And I mean, for better or worse, I do think that definitely makes it a little boring because it is so one-dimensional.
The first of which was Thunderlord. If you didn't have Thunderlord with the Catalyst, good luck clearing the raid. And it's not that I have some weird hate boner towards Thunderlord for any reason. I think it's more the fact that this is a weapon that's over a decade old in Destiny's history, and it's one of two things that's meta for this raid that you could use to clear it on contest mode. And it doesn't really require any real skill to use it either. You literally just stood there and held mouse 1 and aimed at the boss, and Thunderlord would do the rest of the work. And I honestly think the best representation of this whole thing was a meme that actually floated around the community well before the raid came out. And it was this one right here.
Yeah, this meme's great and
that
spot
on
on.
The left is showcasing some sort of crazy weapon swap you can hit with, like, throwing your Silence and Squall, Rocket, weapon combo deluxe, and hitting 3.2 million damage. And then those who just mouse one with Thunderlord hitting 3.3. And I honestly think that's probably what Bungie was going for here, was making a raid that was more mechanically challenging than anything. I do have a feeling that they knew what the meta was going to be for this, but hey, I could be wrong here. Point is that there needs to be at least a few more options that you can use to be able to clear this, because if you don't have one or two weapons that you didn't get for any particular reason, you're not able to complete the raid, I think that's really cringe. On top of...
Yeah, I agree. And it also happened the same way in Salvation's Edge, where Celestial Nighthawk, Golden Gun Hunters with Still Hunt and Apex Predator to just, output damage because the Witness was so far away. So again, it really pigeonholed what you could do for DPS. It was basically, you had to use the God Roll, Apex Predator, Rocket, and Still Hunt, or you did not beat contest mode Salvation's Edge. That's just how it was. And yeah, like I said, for better or worse, like the reason I say for better or worse is because the good side of that is it is a really tight DPS check, and that's very exciting. But the bad part is there's like no skill expression, no variety. It's just use the meta or get fucked.
The whole weapons thing, they just overhauled the entire stat system. And we quickly found out that all the stats, besides weapon and super, do not really matter at all in a high-end setting.
Yes, again, he's 100% right. It's like if you built into grenades and health, screw you then. And it's funny, I had even got on just to burn up a bunch of my episode Echoes engrams, and I focused mobility just so that if I were to come back in the future, like maybe they do bring Wrath of the Machine back and it's free, then I might hop in with my friends. I wanted a weapon and super statted armor set that I could use in a raid because it is that important, which you'll get to.
If you didn't have at least 100 super, you weren't building multiple supers per damage phase with your Thunderlord.
Yep.
And that also ties in with all the work that we did before the DLC came out.
Yeah, so people were farming Artifice armor from the Master Grasp of Avarice dungeon, and again, they were doing like what I did. They focused mobility because mobility is what became weapons, and then hoping for super as your other high stat drop. And they called it illegal armor because Bungie, in their infinite wisdom, doesn't have every single combination. There's 6 armor stats, so you should be able to spec into both, like 2 out of the 6 in every single combination, in my opinion. And the way it is launched, I'm sure they will have a super and weapon focused stat armor in the future, but the way it launched, they don't have that. And from what I've read, they also don't have grenade and melee, which is very annoying. It's like, it'd be fun to spec into grenades and melees if you just want to go all abilities and say screw it to your super and your weapon damage and health and all that. Let players build the way they want to build.
If you looked in the Twitch directory a week before the expansion came out, you probably saw every streamer and their mother literally just farming the Grasp of Avarice master boss. And the reason that people were farming this is so that they could get stat rolls that you can't currently get anymore. And this includes being able to maximize your weapon and super stat at the same exact time. And to even go deeper into the rabbit hole,
again, that's a huge failure on Bungie's part,
was also the reason that people were farming exotics before the expansion came out, so that they could get closer to 200 weapon and 200 super stat on their damage loadout builds, which currently, on the exotics that really help you push towards that, you can't get those rolls anymore. The best way to level up...
Yeah, they've made exotics like cap out at tier 3 or something, which again is another oversight, and I'm sure they'll change. But yeah, just silly game design.
During the expansion was also something that was very tedious and boring and not too content. You had people running the Encore mission on repeat. I think myself personally, we probably did at least 30 hours of Encore for just leveling for the raid.
Can I just say that sounds horrible? When you had to run Encore every week to get the catalyst and stuff, I was actually over visiting my sister, and so when I came back, I had to do it back to back to back. And granted, yeah, I did it solo, but still, just running that mission 3 or 4 times in a row solo, I was hating life. I despise the Encore mission. 30 hours? Oh my god, that just sounds so monotonous and so dry. And it's also like, Bungie, what are you doing? Why is there not some new content in the game that people can farm and have fun in, that they can level up just as efficiently? Why do they have to go play the worst exotic mission that's ever been designed in Destiny 2 to get powerful drops?
Did you need all those levels? No. Let me clarify why.
Yes, and he makes a really good point here, because I saw people on Twitter saying, the raid's capped at 100. Why do people need to grind their level up anyways? And again, it's because of a failure in Bungie's game design with how you earn high tier loot.
Exactly, people are running it. So the higher level that you go, the higher difficulty option you can choose. And at these higher difficulty options, you get the...
And I've talked about this, but that's so stupid. Just let people choose the higher option and then give them better gear. But no, you have to level up to an arbitrary number just to unlock those difficulty options.
Higher tiered armor. So like at tier 3 armor and up is where you start getting a stat boost compared to the armor that we used to have. So you could get armor stat rolls that were like 73 plus. So this would give you a little bit of extra juice in your weapon and super stat if you really wanted to go the extra mile. But the grind for doing that was actual hell.
Was actual hell, yeah, I believe that. And yeah, to unlock that, honest to God, now that we saw the DPS checks in that raid, he's right. That extra 10 super and extra 10 weapon could be the difference between you beating that final stand on that final boss or not. So it absolutely made a difference. Like, if you were serious about going for a placement or even just a contest clear, then it was beneficial for you to do that Encore grind.
Moving on from the whole weapons thing, there are 2 other big things that were problems in this raid. The first of which is the amount of bugs that went on during this raid. Dear God. When a new raid comes out, it's really hard to distinguish sometimes whether you're soft-locked in a raid or you're just not doing something right. And that really isn't on the shoulders of the player to be able to distinguish that, because we're all going in blind and nobody has any idea what's going on.
This is such a good point. I've done contest raids. It's like, you need the game to be working properly because nobody knows how the mechanics work yet. So you're looking at every buff and every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and every consequence of an action that you do, you're looking for how that affects the encounter so that you can figure out the mechanics. So if things just straight up aren't working properly, then you're like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, when really it's the game's fault. But you have no way of knowing and no frame of reference for knowing that it's not your fault, it's the game's fault. And that's a huge problem in a day one raid, more than anything, because they have like the most complicated mechanics in the game, more so than dungeons. And then yeah, like Nightfalls don't even really have mechanics. So it's very important for a day one raid to work properly from that perspective.
When we're all in a big race to try and see who can finish the raid first, there really needs to be a structure where bugs are the least of our worries. And there were more bugs than I've ever seen before. The amount of times that we had to relaunch the raid was more than every other raid I've done in existence combined.
Yeah, I think he's right. I've never watched the day one raid race because I'm usually like not competing for worlds first, but trying to get contests with my friends. And yeah, we rarely would have to re-instance ever. Maybe once or twice tops between each raid. And he's saying he had to do it more than every raid he's ever done combined. And I totally believe that. It seemed like a massive problem this time around.
Because every so often, players would have like the rounds per minute of their weapons just randomly like change to like one bullet. We had one of our teammates was like reloading his tractor cannon one bullet at a time.
That's crazy. Tractor. It holds 7 in the mag, and it's like this big thing that you change. So to only be getting 1, that is such a DPS loss, because the tractor guy has to reapply that like every 15 seconds. So if he has to reload in between, because tractor loads super slow, like again, that's the type of stuff that's the difference between clearing a boss or not.
And then the other thing is that sometimes the rally banners, which are supposed to give you full super and weapons, just wouldn't give you your super. So the solution to this is you had to keep relaunching the raid, which sometimes would take a minute, because when you go to launch the raid and the big green button that says launch, you click it and it just doesn't work!
I've had that happen to me before too with my friends. I can't remember which activity it was, but they're just like, dude, launch, because you want to get in there like right away on a day one contest race, right? And I'm like, dude, it's like not letting me launch. And I've had this, been a known issue in Destiny for a while, but yeah, when you're having to re-instance all the time and you're actually in the race and having to do this more than once, then it becomes very annoying. It's one thing when it's just you're loading in once and then you're in there for 20 hours, but when you have to go back in and out and it's not launching, that's crazy.
The last big thing in terms of the raid race I wanted to address was the blacking out of screens. So a lot of top teams nowadays, it's been getting worse and worse every year, will blur out certain parts of their screen, if not the whole thing, or just completely black it out, so that teams that have scouts, scouts are people that literally just go around to different teams and gather information for their team to try and finish first, they won't be able to get information. They won't be able to see the names of buffs. Sometimes you literally can't even see the gameplay, so it's like all you can hear is noise. And I want to make this very clear before I get deeper into this. I don't blame anybody for trying to do everything that they can to try and win. But I think there is a fine line between...
And I totally agree with him. So Snazzy Rock, once they hit the boss, he completely covered his screen. So did Ham, who was on his team. And that really sucked as a viewer because... Okay, one thing they did do was they showed like the boss spawning in. So that was nice to get to see the final boss. But then it was covered for hours. And it was really disappointing from a viewer perspective because you're watching that to see, well, the whole raid. And you can't see it for hours and hours. Huge shout out to Tyrax on Team Parabellum. Once they got there, he had nothing covered. Like, that was goated. Because Special Hero, when they came along too, pretty sure his whole screen was blocked. And then once Tyrax was showing, then it was like, okay, after a while, the other guys relented and showed it. But at the same time, like, Snazzy is the solo raid GOAT. World's First means so much to these top tier players. And, like, it's a huge prestige thing to get a World's First raid. So, on the flip side, I can totally see that competitive aspect of wanting to block your screen. So, sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I totally understand both sides of the argument.
Wanting to win and ruining the experience for your viewers. Because your viewers are the ones that make it entirely possible for you to have a full-time content creation job. And unfortunately nowadays, we only get one new raid per year. So there's once a year that we get to all sit and celebrate this giant fun event that everybody can be a part of. But it's gotten to a point where half or a lot of the directory is blacking out their screens so they can farm viewership and ads. But they also want like the clout and credibility from winning. And I just find it so strange because I'm a firm believer that these people can win without having to block their screens.
I think he's totally right.
If it's so serious to the point where you feel like showing your gameplay is detrimental and giving other teams information, you could just not stream. It's quite literally that simple. And this is coming from someone...
Like, Snazzy and them, they're super talented. They could win without blocking their streams. He's right about that.
Who has won a raid race without blocking any screen or comms. We won Last Wish without a single mute or screen hiding. And to talk about that a little bit more, I think muting is fine.
And he's right here, too.
Completely reasonable to do like a team huddle and be like, hey guys, let's do this while muted.
Talk about what you're seeing, blah, blah, blah. Like, the viewers don't necessarily need to see or hear all that. It's nice to try to figure out like what's going on, but at the same time, I will say I watched a lot of Special Hero and he had a lot of stuff blurred, but because this raid was so damage checky, it was still entertaining to watch because I understand the game enough that I can watch it and understand like what they're doing for damage. And like, you know, the main part of this whole race was just boss damage and you could still see that, so it wasn't totally detrimental to the experience. Like I said, the only time that it really bothered me as a viewer was when the whole screen was blacked out when the first couple teams were getting to final boss. Outside of that, I didn't find it too big an issue, but I 100% see both sides of it. Like I said, I can see why the viewers hate any blocking or even comm muting, and I can see why the top teams want to do it.
Try this strategy. I don't think strat hiding in itself is a problem because the viewers can still watch the gameplay. They're there for an experience to create a memory that they will remember.
Yeah, like you said, they don't really need to know the strats and like what the teams are trying to do, so muting's fine. But yeah, they want to... Honest to God, I made that video about how it was the best raid race ever, and I watched for 16 hours and I loved it. And like he goes on to say here, it is a very memorable experience. It was for me. It makes me want to tune into the next one.
And if this only continues to get worse...
But he's right
where
here.
The screens are blacked out for half the raid race, those memories are not going to live in the hearts and minds of the viewers 10 years from now. They're not going to look back and go, oh, hey, you remember that raid in 2025 that... Nope, I don't, because I couldn't watch half of it.
And that's a good point. Had Dabs and them cleared while the screen was blocked out, like if they did it before all the other teams showed up, because once all the other teams showed up, started showing their streams, then everybody was showing their streams, and then it was actually so friggin' exciting because you'd be seeing third phase damage phase from one of like 9 different streams, so any one of those people could have been a world's first at the time. But if they had cleared it early on, that would have been so insanely anticlimactic if Dabs or Snazzy Rock just stopped blocking his screen and it just showed them celebrating, and then you see a tweet from Bungie that they were world's first and you didn't get to see any of it. It completely would have ruined the experience for me. The fun was how so many of these top talented teams could have cleared on any pull, and we were watching it all unfold. That was the excitement, and he's so right. Like, it played out good this time that enough teams caught up that then they all stopped blocking their screens. But it definitely could have played out a different way and been very, very disappointing for the viewers.
To be completely honest with you, I don't really know where the future of raid racing is going to go. A lot of people are going to have to lead by example, and I hope that people will come to the realization that they can win without hiding, and hopefully...
I hope they do that too. I even tweeted, shout out Glad and Snazzy Rock for being Chads and not blocking any of your screens, and then once they got to the final boss, Snazzy actually did. But like he said, the top teams are just going to have to lead by example, and we'll see how that all plays out. Also, on the future of future raids and whatever else, I'm pretty pessimistic about the future of Destiny. So genuinely, who knows if you even have another world's first race at this point, the way Destiny 2 is headed. My personal take.
want to create a good experience for their viewers and their community, but at the same time, I'm not confident nowadays, because it seems like a lot of people just want to show up to that and be in the lead just for the sake of clout and money. So, but to say some positive things about the raid, I love the fact that they really are pushing their players' limits on this, and I do think that it is more encouraging for people to get better at the game, to optimize their builds a little bit more and get some team chemistry going and all those things. And one of my favorite things that we have not had since 2017 is that you could do the raid bosses in whatever order you wanted.
I totally agree on his point about having aspirations to want to compete and push yourself to get better at the game. I have long talked about that, and like Milo Raffle Waffles is a great example of that. He's taken up the game in the last year, and he's solo flawless Sundered Doctrine. He beat contest Sundered Doctrine, and he actually beat the contest mode raid because he stayed in his instance. He just didn't beat it within 48 hours, so he didn't get the emblem. But he persevered, and it's inspiring to, just see what you can do when you're determined enough. And I definitely agree with Sweat there. Like, it is good to have something like that to push towards and have Bungie make it so aspirational and so challenging to even the best players in the world. Personally, like I said, I made my video talking about all the bugs and this and that, and whether the damage checks were like even registering the proper amount of damage and all this. But if they were and everything was good, I think the balance was very good. I haven't checked raid report yet, but probably less than 200 teams beat it in the first 48 hours. And I'm not one of these people that's like, if more than 100 teams clear, it shouldn't be like that. It's a case-by-case basis. If there's enough talented teams to overcome the challenge that Bungie puts forth, then they're deserving. If that's 1,000 teams, that's fine. If they were all good enough to beat a super challenging raid. Every single top-tier player has said this is the most challenging contest, and that's, at the end of the day, what you want to hear. That it was super challenging, and that they felt that they achieved something when they overcame that final boss. Because they did. Those damage checks were severe, and only the best of the best players were going to beat it. But again, players just keep getting better and better at Destiny, so don't look at it as, oh, this many teams cleared, so it diminishes like my accomplishment, because it doesn't. Root of Nightmares was a joke, and that's why people didn't like it, because there was no sense of accomplishment. This, if you beat that, you're a true gamer. Like, this was no joke.
Which made things a lot more exciting from the viewer's perspective when you could actually see what's going on. In terms of the future of Destiny, there were some other things that I wanted to talk about too, but I wanted to go more into this post from the official Destiny of the Game tweet themselves. They were talking about like player feedback on the contest raid difficulty, which we just talked about, but this was the first time that they've ever actually acknowledged this. This was another thing that was a problem, is PC crashes after 5+ hours with certain hardware configurations. So this has been a thing literally since the 3000 series of NVIDIA graphics cards came out, where if you played at uncapped frame rate, your game would probably crash between the 5 to 7 hour mark.
So I just want to give some context. My old graphics card was a 2080 Ti, and then I upgraded to a 4090. So on my 2080 Ti, like he said, it was 3000s and beyond. So I never had that issue. He says capped frame rate. So even on my 4090, I play at 144 hertz frame rate cap, because that's what my monitor refresh rate is. So anything more is just a waste. So I cap it at 144. And for me, it's right between that 6 and 7 hour mark. It starts maybe around 6, but it's usually about 6.5 hours on the dot. And it friggin' sucks. But it's nice that they're finally acknowledging it, because it's been, over 4 years.
And after some time, we kind of figured out that it was based on the amount of frames rendered total. Your game would crash at that exact time, which is why people usually fall in the 5 to 7 hour mark, is because they're usually within like a certain frame window. This is why I've been playing capped on 60 frames per second for the past almost 5 years.
So that sucks that he has to cap at 60, but he'll go on.
And by playing at 60 frames per second, this pushes my timer a lot farther out, because my frames rendered is a lot lower. I'm guessing.
So like I said, if I'm at 60, if he's at 60, mine's every 6.5 hours, so double that, because I'm 144, but you could call it 120. So he's going to last like 13 hours.
If I were to just leave it running for 14 plus hours, I probably would crash around that point. So with the frames, imagine you get to Final Stand or something like that and your game crashes because you've had Destiny open too long. Like, that just shouldn't be a thing. And the fact
It shouldn't be a thing. That would be heartbreaking. I showed my clip yesterday of me. It was the second day in a row where I was on my way to Final Boss on my Sundered Doctrine solo flawless attempts, and I froze up and crashed. 2 solo flawless attempts, neutered, just done and over because my game crashed because I had it open for 6.5 hours.
that it's taken almost 5 years for them to even acknowledge this is disgusting. Also with frames, there's a thing in Destiny, this is an engine-related issue, that the amount of damage that you take in-game is related to how many frames per second you're running. This also used to be true with 1,000 voices.
Yeah, the Colossus cannons are infamous for that. And I think the Scorn bows were as well. I have been one-shot by a Scorn bow in that one moon battleground. I've just straight up been one-shot in a GM. Where you used to get one-shot in GMs, but then we had the damage resist and all that. But yeah, it literally ended one of my runs, and that was a frame issue.
You would do more damage to the frames that you had. That's fixed. But there are other things in the game that are frame-related that they just really haven't acknowledged up until this point. Has it been like super common knowledge? Maybe not, but the crashing related issue definitely has. And for the expansion, more as a total, besides the raid, that I think overall was a really positive experience for myself personally. I haven't gone back through and played it on normal mode yet, but I was pretty impressed with the raid for the most part. The rest of
I was too. Obviously, I didn't play it. I don't even have access to it. But yeah, just seeing what I saw on streams and Twitter clips and all the day one that I watched, I love the aesthetic. I love the pick any boss and the order you want to go. Yeah, I know I would like this raid a lot, which is saying something for a Vex raid. But yeah, I think it looks really good.
the expansion, though, debatable. I wasn't super wowed by the campaign. The 9 story is something cool that I've always wanted them to do. I don't know why they waited this long to do it. I would say I was intrigued by the story for the first time in a long time. The cutscenes in the campaign, though, were absolutely exceptional.
That's cool because I feel like I'm probably like Sweat. I'd rather play the game than care about the story. Even when the story's good, and I do listen to Bife videos and stuff, but like in game, I'm never intrigued by the story. I never know what's going on. I'm just trying to rip through missions so that I can grind gear.
Aside from that, though, I don't really know what the incentive is now to go back and farm things like Tier 5 armor, now that the raid race is done. We have the epic version of the raid coming, I believe, in the September Ash and Iron update, where they're going to add a new encounter to the raid.
I'll be honest, that sounds pretty sick that they're adding a totally new encounter, and yeah, hopefully they do a bit of like a epic raid race. I mean, I'll tune into whatever streamer's playing it just because I really liked watching the actual contest race. But that sounds pretty cool. But if they also add some different mechanics in, like they did in the old Prestige Leviathan and stuff like that, I think that would be really neat. But he makes a very good point here of what is the point of grinding these things. And I mean, I've been sounding the alarm on that for a while, but we'll just let him finish his thoughts.
But is there really a point for me to go back and farm that Tier 5 armor for a few extra stat points? I just really don't feel the motivation to do so, personally. I think I'm probably just going to lean more towards like the fun challenge content that we've been doing on this channel for.
So yeah, it's like for players like him and these top tier guys, like the contest race is the pinnacle. So yeah, those guys like Special Hero, they're going to be doing their like speedrun GMs and speedrun dungeons and stuff. So they'll like have reasons to farm it. But outside of people like that, really what is the incentive to grind it? Because from an outsider's perspective, granted I'm not playing it, but it doesn't seem like there's much to go after. Yeah, you can do harder GMs just to get tier 5 loot, but then they say you basically that tier 5 loot, which you can't really get till Ash and Iron, which is 3 months away, and then it kind of goes away or gets soft sunset come Renegades. Again, I don't totally understand how all that armor system stuff works, but basically it seems that you have to regrind tier 5 armor in Renegades. And I've been saying that Destiny is a treadmill for a while now, and if that doesn't point out that it is, I don't know what does.
For a little bit over a year now. You guys seem to be enjoying that more than just like the fun highlights where we hang out and grind the new stuff. It doesn't really seem like a lot of new people are interested in the like new leveling system or anything like that. So as far as the future of Destiny is concerned, I'm really unsure of how much longer the franchise will last, because we've been getting less
I'll let him finish.
and less content year over year. The community sentiment hasn't been great. And people on Twitter have been pocket watching the player numbers on Steam so hard. I find it so strange. Is it indicative of people are getting tired out by Destiny? Yes, but they're using that to draw these crazy conclusions. I still want to.
So I'll admit, yeah, maybe I am in an echo chamber, because a lot of the takes, I'm never on Reddit, but a lot of the takes I see from the expansion are just from Twitter. And I have heard it is like a pretty negative environment regarding the game, but I have seen defenders of Bungie in there as well. But yeah, he's right. The future is uncertain. The launch numbers were about 2/3 less than what they were with Final Shape. So yeah, the future of Destiny, it does seem to be in decline. And like he says, there's more bugs than ever. So like I said, he just has very measured takes. And I pretty much agree with everything he had to say in this video.
To enjoy it as much as possible and just make the fun videos that I actually enjoy making. I don't want to push myself to make videos that I don't enjoy making. Along with that,
I love that point. People ask why I'm back, and it's because I enjoy making the videos that I'm making now. I always enjoyed the videos I made back then. I do have a firm belief that if you are just true to yourself, and in whatever capacity, whether it's content creation or whatever, but it's like, I just make videos that I would want to watch. That's all I've ever done. And yeah, I had lots of comments in the past like, oh, you're the best D2 creator, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Because like I said, I felt people all across this community do make great content, but I wanted to make the videos that I thought that I would watch, which is what I did. And it resonated with people because there's an audience for everything. If I wanted to watch those videos, then other people found my videos, and then so on and so forth. So I think that's great that Sweat is staying true to himself and just like, we're just going to do what I have fun with. And that's the best way to do it. It's like, don't chase metrics. Everyone fucking roasts me about, oh, Mario Kart YouTuber, what happened to Monster Hunter Wilds, blah, blah, blah. Monster Hunter Wilds never grabbed me. Capcom fucking released a half-baked, shitty Monster Hunter as well. So I'm not going to put up with it. I'm not going to stick it out and try to grow a channel on something that I don't like. Mario Kart, I really had a good time with Mario Kart. I'm good enough at the game to beat the time trials. So I made some videos, and quite a few of them have comments like, hey, thank you. When I watched your videos, they helped me. Yeah, it's a lot less views and a lot less comments that I did help someone. But that's how I started on Destiny as well. I was making Lost Sector solo guides, getting less than 1,000 views, just like with Mario Kart ones. But I would get comments here and there that, oh my gosh, you helped me, thank you. That is what I'm trying to do, is to help people. And then I also did some Death Stranding videos about, here's the most optimal way to build a highway. Because I'm very good at optimizing whatever games I'm playing. That is just a skill that I have. So if I think I have a piece of content that I can make to help someone, I'm going to make that. And whether it pops off or doesn't really bother me. I don't do this for the views. I do it for the satisfaction that I'm helping someone, or I've made a video that I would look up. Like that Mario Kart thing. It's like, oh, fuck, I'm stuck on this. I wonder if somebody made one of these videos. Yep. Same with the Death Stranding one. When I streamed Death Stranding 1, I was like looking up, how the hell do I level this guy up? And I found this great 2-minute YouTube video that didn't even have that many views, but it helped me. So I was like, hey, I want to make some content like that. That might be something that I would search, and then people can find it, and hopefully it helps them. So I just wanted to talk about that. I think it's great what Sweat's doing. We'll let him finish here.
I just wanted to let y'all know that I have streamed almost 300 hours of Destiny this month, and that
what
includes
a beast.
like the pre-expansion grind to get ready for this raid.
Dude's grinding. I love it. Good job, man.
So Coming up after the raid hype has died down a little bit and we get some challenges filmed, we will be planning to do a variety month where I tried some games that I've never actually played before. Like a couple of things on those lists are like Dark Souls 2, Cyberpunk.
I love this too because, like I said, I haven't watched Sweat much in years, but I did used to watch him, and I plan on doing all the Soulsborne games. So let's just go. Oh, and then he says Red Dead, or did he say Cyberpunk? Either way, I plan on playing RDR2 and Cyberpunk in the near future.
Like a couple of things on those lists are like Dark Souls.
Yeah, so Dark Souls 1 to 3 and Bloodborne, I definitely want to play, and I have them owned. I've bought them now.
To Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk. They just had another update, and I plan on diving into that at some point.
We're having Silk Song later this year.
I just bought Hollow Knight on the recent Steam sale like a week or two ago, so I'll be playing Hollow Knight, and then whenever Silk Song comes out, I want to play that.
That I'm super pumped about. I just played Hollow Knight for the first time last year, I believe. Anyways, I just
thought that part was cool because I'm like, damn, I'm just as interested in all the games as he is. And like I said, I feel like we play Destiny in a similar way as well. Obviously, he's got a way bigger audience and all that stuff. He's got world's first. He's just a better version of me, makes better content, does better streams. But it's cool how similar I feel like we are.
Just wanted to give you all an update on how I think things are feeling with Destiny right now that the raid is finally done. There's a lot of mixed emotions, and it always seems like people hate the game on Twitter 24/7, no matter if something good happens or not. I don't really know. That's why I try and stay off Twitter now, but...
Yeah, and a funny thing with that is, I know my thumbnails back-to-back days, one was Bungie cooked, and that was referring specifically to the raid race, and then the other one was that they messed up, and that was because of all the bugs. And people were like, which is it? Do you love or hate the game? Again, what I said at the start of this video is Sweatsicle's always had measured takes, and I've always liked that about him. He just tells it like it is, and I feel that I'm doing the same. Yes, I may skew more negatively, but that is because the game is not in a good state. When I was all about the game and always playing it, all my stuff was positive because there was nothing to complain about for me. And that's just life. It's like, I just call a spade, and so does Sweat, and I just like that, so.
We'll just take things one day at a time, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Let's just try and have some fun.
Have some fun. Awesome. Great video. But like I said, it was just funny to see in the comments. It's like, oh, now you like Bungie. It's like, no, I will praise them where it's warranted, and I'll criticize them where it's warranted. And lately it's been more criticism because they are releasing buggy products. I can't help that. I'm not going to shill and pretend like things are fine, but I'm also not going to be just a determined hater. That's the thing. A lot of people do just throw that word hater around and whatever, but I feel that I have such a knowledge of the game and the background of where they've been over the years, so I can refer to things and give context around things. So I frame it in that way as like quote unquote constructive criticism, or like, here's what you did in the past, that things, basically I'm trying to improve the game. I'm not just hating. I hate all this DEI stuff and people saying they're too woke at the studio and blah, 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 blah. Woke people can make just as good a video games as MAGA people. It's like art is, or should be, totally separate from your viewpoints. And even if it's not, it can also be done in a tasteful way. There's tons of political games out there that, yeah, they do it tastefully. It doesn't have to be rammed down your throat. If it's done well, people aren't going to care. It's when it's done poorly that then people start getting mad about it. So yeah, I'm never just like spouting actual hate. I'm not threatening DMG's life. That shit is not only cringe, but it's fucked up. Like, get yourself checked if you're doing stuff like that. You have issues if you're that upset that you're threatening someone's life. So anyways, I wasn't even planning on throwing that in, but that's how it goes when I do these unscripted videos. Good job, Sweat. Really liked your video. Good takes as always whenever I watch you. So that's it for the video. Peace.